Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. You know, it, these last months, as we've been doing this morning talk and reading, and the theme has been freedom. The theme is freedom, and sometimes it when we don't know that we're not free, I guess it doesn't really matter. But I think that many of us do know that we're not free, and we're struggling to find our way. We're struggling to to get to freedom. And so this morning I wanted to talk a little bit about what it looks like to not be free, and to what am I talking about freedom, and so the thing is that thinking that we know is like the walls in our prison, and it's interesting to watch some of the current events that are happening in the world, and how we have dramatically have our opinions about them, and to point this out, that this is actually um, ego. This is ego. This is ego is what keeps us from freedom. Ego has an opinion about everything, and this is right and this is wrong, a kind of an opinion, or this is bad and this is good opinion, and and when we're in ego, whether it's on a personal basis about ourselves, I'm bad, we're shaming ourselves, or I did something bad, guilting ourselves, um, and living in that. We're in our ego. And everything about the 12-step program is to free us from that. And it's amazing that Bill, on page 61 of the big books, pointed out some of the manifestations of ego, the look of ego. And I never, it took me a long time to get this. Bill, in the big book, said the actor is self-centered, egocentric. Egocentric. He's saying that the actor, that's he's talking about us in this description of the second half of step one, that our life is unmanageable. It's unmanageable because we're in our ego, thinking we know, making our decisions based on self, out of fear and self-centeredness. And he says the actor's self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He's like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. Well, millions are doing that right now. Millions are in their ego saying, oh, this should never have happened, or that should never have happened. And what's going to happen to them now? And so we're all in our ego with attachment. Some of us angry, and so trapped. It's just like, wow, it's like so trapped in an idea. And it's interesting to watch. The trick, of course, is to stay neutral, to not have an opinion. Be like, oh, isn't that interesting? To watch the whole thing transpire. Um, okay, retired businessman, Florida Sunshine. Or the minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. Again, another ego statement. And having an opinion, saying, oh my gosh, aren't things terrible? You know, again, the walls of our prison, right? Our politicians and reformers are sure all would be utopia. I love how this is so appropriate for what's going on right now. All would be utopia. The rest of the world would only behave. So this is ego. Or the outlaw safecracker. When this was written this was actually written in the 30s and published in 39. Safecracking was a thing, and the outlaw safecracker who thinks society's wronged him. So not his fault. Society's ego again. And the alcoholic was lost, all and is locked up. So those are all references to ego. Um, Whatever our protestations, whatever the symptoms of our ego would be, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, and our self-pity. So it's really an interesting how. So all I guess I wanted to do this morning is to talk to you a little bit about the manifestations of ego, whether it's about ourselves personally, judgment on our friends. Wherever we're in judgment, we're in ego. And that can be a little harsh when you start to realize that. It's like, you might want to be sick. You might want to be sick. So wherever we're in judgment, we're in ego. I went to visit somebody yesterday I'd never met before. And when I got there, I said to her, why don't we not just tell stories about ourselves? Because what happens is that ego wants to learn all it can about somebody so it can make a judgment. Do I like this person? Do I not like this person? Can I trust this person? Can I not trust this person? What if you could meet somebody and not go through all the personal stories so that your ego can make a judgment? Just let it be, just to sit with them and allow what wants to come up to come up. Be aware when it's ego wanting to judge, because we're so in it, it's almost impossible to see. We say, well, no, that's just the way I am. Well, that's freedom. If you're interested in personal freedom, if you're interested in, how can I live moment to moment in bliss? How can I live moment to moment in joy? And, we need to be able to let go. We need to be able to let go of fear and judgment and guilt and shame and somehow sometimes the best way to let go is to identify them, or when they come up and see them, not to put energy into them. Say, oh, look at that. I get caught up in that, and we all can get caught up in sometimes in current events. If it looks, like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, we can get caught up and have a judgment, pick up the phone and call, did you see, wow, what's going on over there? And, I wonder what's going to happen with that, so when we have our opinion but it's, just to share that it's an example of ego, We're like the retired businessman lolling in the Florida sunshine, complaining about the sad state of the nation, no matter how old we are. It just takes a while to see it. If you're interested in freedom, if that's what you want, and then, if we turn our focus then on helping others to get free, the more we're helping others to get free, the more we see ourselves. And then watch how ego will defend. Ego will say, freedom to what? Where would you want to go? Why would you leave me? Not to worry that, life will still be interesting and without all the opinions, all the certainties of right and wrong. I have a friend, a buddy of mine who wants to go for a walk the next day or so, and he is so opinionated. Oh, so certain that the right is right and the left is wrong, and so it's interesting to be with him and recognize that certainty is actually crippling his body, and because it does, it does. We tighten up, we contract in our opinions. So it's not, this is not free. To have these certain opinions are not free. They cost us. They cost us our relationships. We run away from people because, over petty differences, oh, they didn't treat me right. They weren't kind to me or something. And so they're not free. So practice, this is my message today, is just practice being without opinion. Not very popular probably, but just practice being without opinion. When opinion comes up, recognize that it's ego. It's, your mind from its very limited perspective, passing a judgment on life or yourself or your wife or your husband, or passing a judgment on even on your kids, or because that's what it does. It's a meaning-making machine. It makes up stories and it passes judgment, and it separates us. Yeah, it separates us. So that's it. Is that maybe too much? I hope not. How would you like to be free? Want to be free? Okay, you guys. It requires a little something. It requires that we pay attention. Pay attention. Be here now, consciously letting go in each moment of the need to be right. Okay. So, as many of you know, this all kind of started last May with the me reading from the 24-hour day book, and and it's expanded a bit to a more of a conversation around personal freedom and I mean personal freedom in a sense of an inside job. It doesn't matter. There's people in jail who are more free than many of us who aren't. Do you know what I mean? Because they're free. They haven't they don't have a judgment on what's happening. They're like, oh, here we are, and so that freedom is available to you and to me always. What day is it? I think it must be the 6th. Is it? Is it the 6th already? 7th. Oh my gosh, it's the 7th. 7th of January. We're going to read a little bit from this little book that I've been reading from for a while. And this is the 24-hour day book. And it was written in the 40s, but published in the 50s. And it's been kind of a mainstay. It points a lot towards awakening. Sometimes it's a bit toolistic, but still, there are pieces in it that are very singular, very love-based. Okay, January 7th, a thought for the day. When temptation comes, as it does sometimes to all of us, I will say to myself, no, my whole life depends on not taking that drink, and nothing in the world can make me do it. So he's really speaking about, for many of us, whether it's the drink or whether it's having a judgment, it's the same in a way. Because when we're in judgment, when we're in ego, we're just that much closer to, the pain. And so my whole topic is maybe not on the level of the drinker or the not drinker, but it is it's quite the same. No, my whole life depends on not taking that drink, and nothing in the world can make me do it. Besides, I have promised that higher power, I have promised that higher power that I wouldn't do it. I know that God doesn't want me to drink, and I won't break my promise to God. So, we kind of personified this idea of a higher power, and for many that's okay, and for some it isn't. Some it's like, well, I can't buy that idea of a personified, objectified God. So you recognize that Bill said something in We Agnostics that was amazing. In We Agnostics, Bill said God either is or he isn't. Either he's everything or he's nothing. So that takes God off the shelf in a way. And if he's everything, then he's everything. And that's amazing. That's like, oh, that doesn't exclude anything. Where's God not? So it's pretty amazing. I'll give up my right to drink, and it's not my decision any longer. I've given up my right to drink. It's not my decision any longer. I made the choice once and for all, so that there's no going back on it. So for those of you who are watching, you're kind of still in that state, you can replace the right to drink with the right to have judgment. I've given up the right to have judgment. I've given up the right to decide what's right or wrong in somebody else's life. You can replace it. I've given up the right to have judgment with the right to drink. If drinking isn't your addiction, most of us are addicted to being right. We're addicted to saying we know, we got it figured out, and it's just such a thin story. Anyway, Meditation for the day. In silence comes God's meaning to the heart. No man can judge when it enters the heart. There he goes. He's talking about exactly that. Can only judge by results. God's word is spoken to the silent place in my heart, and in some hour of temptation, I find that word and realize its value for the first time. When I need it, I find it there. Thy Father, who seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may see God's meaning in my life. I pray that I may gladly accept that what God has to teach me. Nice. So this is a beautiful little book, a God book that's quite inclusive. It doesn't have a particular story of God. Much like all of the 12-step world doesn't have. A beautiful thing. So you guys, that's it. Just to recap, watch, be conscious when we're judging, when we get caught up in the story, and especially as current events, which come and go if you've lived as long as I have. Shit happens, life changes, and we just let it go. It's all slipping through our fingers on the outside. It doesn't matter. And focus inside. Focus inside. Focus on love. Focus on service. Right? Yeah. So I'm going to meditate for a couple of minutes. Love you to join me if you'd like. We're going to just sit, and if you could, I'd love if you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, great. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. I'm it's kind of like a project, I guess, to build the YouTube channel and to carry this message to more and more people. My experience is that it's very subtle. This is really subtle work, and most of the world doesn't have any idea that they're not free, that they're asleep. And I didn't like to hear when teachers told me that I was asleep. I would be like, "What are you talking about?" So, thanks so much. We're going to sit and meditate for a little bit. You know who leads some amazing meditations is, I got a couple of quick things I want to tell you too. Muji, if you watch some of his meditations, they're amazing. He's just great. I'm going to start in the next couple of days to do some more interviews. Last year in 2020, we did a lot of interviews. 2019, we did a lot of interviews. And we're going to do interviews. There's a lot of people, have got through 2020. We're going to talk about, who did they become in 2020? Who are they now? How's life unfolding for them? Where are they at in their progression of awakening? May ask some tough questions. And yeah, so we're going to do some interviews. If you have any thoughts or suggestions, post them here, of people that you would like to see interviewed. And I'm open. Okay. So we're going to have a quick meditation. You guys join us. And just close your eyes. You don't have to close your eyes, but I like it to close my eyes. It just kind of brings me more inside, But I think that as time goes on, it doesn't really matter, closed or open. It's we can drop in past the what's happening on the outside, really quickly. So let's do that. Let's just drop in with our breath. Just use the breath to come into your center. I'm just going to let go of everything that's going on, all the stories in our mind. Just let it all go for a couple of minutes. You can pick it up later. All the current event stories, all the, stories with family, all the stories of what's happening in your life, or what you think is happening in your life. And just imagine, if you want to imagine anything, that it's all for you. It's not against you. Just let it go in that space. Okay, this is for me. Just drop it down. No story of who you used to be. No story of who you want to be. Just be here now. And really, you don't need any imagination in this moment. Just be here with what is. Drop deep inside. No againstness. Nothing, nothing to be for. Nothing to be against. Just you in you. Past the story of you. So just for a minute, don't have to be a man, don't have to be a woman, don't have to identify with your job. Nothing to forgive. Just feel yourself as you expand. And you will expand. In ego, when we have fear, we're contracted. When we have judgment, we're contracted. When our body gets sick, we get pains in our back, pains in our shoulders. And just allow yourself to be in this moment expanded, totally expanded. Just feel the tension just release from your whole body. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is right. Nothing is good. Nothing is bad. Give up all rights just for the moment. Nowhere to be, nowhere to get to, no next. Just watch your thoughts, let them go. Remember that you're not your mind. You're not your thoughts. If you watch them long enough, you realize that they're just passing. They are like clouds. Just passing. Just come back when you're ready. Thank you. Wow. Sometimes I just totally disappear. Even if thoughts are happening, um, they're just over there. I'm not engaged with them. So meditation is a beautiful state, isn't it? Oh. Thanks, guys. So be conscious today. Um, you have, you have strong opinions. Just look at them. Say, "Oh, look." If you get caught up in right or wrong, or good or bad, for or against, just recognize that that's ego. Ego doesn't like to be outed. So this might not be popular, but love you guys, and we'll talk soon. Gonna do some interviews soon. I'll let you know. If you have anybody in mind that you think that I could interview, just make a note. Interesting folks that have been doing the work, or yeah, whoever you think. Thanks. Love you lots.